All right, let's begin. Thank you for joining us today. Good afternoon. This is the O'Donnell Awards information session for the Technology Innovation Award. My name is Terrence Henry, and I'm the Executive Director of TAMEST. That stands for the Academy of Medicine, Engineering, and Science of Texas. We really appreciate the time and effort that goes into preparing and submitting nominations for these awards. So we hope this session provides some information that will help you and lead to a successful nomination. Before we begin the session, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about our organization. TAMEST supports collaboration to advance research, innovation, human talent development, and business in Texas. Our organization is composed of more than 330 Texas-based members of the three national academies: the National Academy of Medicine, the National Academy of Engineering, and the National Academy of Sciences, as well as other honorific organizations, and the state's 10 Nobel laureates. You can learn a little more about our mission and various initiatives on our website, which is tamest.org. We're supported by our academic member institutions who help make the O'Donnell Awards and other programs possible, and we'd like to thank them for their support. A little bit about our agenda for today's session. We have the chair of our O'Donnell Awards Committee, Ann Salamone, who will give you some history and background on the awards. Ann Salamone is chairman of the board at Rochal Industries. Then we'll hear from Oliver Mullins, Schlumberger Fellow at Schlumberger Limited. Dr. Mullins serves as the Technology Innovation Subcommittee chair, and he's going to discuss what the committee looks for in a successful application. Then we'll hear from our TAMEST program officer, Stephanie Shaw. She'll review the nomination guidelines, eligibility requirements, and then after that, we'll open it up for Q&A. The Q&A, we will use two options for you to submit questions. One is to just type your question into the chat box via text. The other is to unmute yourself once we get to the Q&A portion, and you can ask a question verbally. We do ask that you stay muted until we get to the Q&A portion of the session. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ann Salamone, the chair of the O'Donnell Awards Committee.
All right, thank you, Terrence, and welcome to everyone that's on this call. And thank you for your interest in nominating a rising Texas researcher for this important award. The Edith and Peter O'Donnell Awards annually recognize rising Texas researchers who are addressing the essential role that science and technology play in society, and whose work meets the highest standards of exemplary professional performance, creativity, and resourcefulness. The awards are named in honor of Edith and Peter O'Donnell, who were steadfast supporters of TAMEST since its inception and are incredible advocates for excellence in education and research. Established in 2006, the O'Donnell Awards acknowledge outstanding achievements by Texas researchers in 5 categories: medicine, engineering, biological sciences, physical sciences, and technology innovation. Previously, the science category rotated each year between biological and physical sciences. New for the 2023 O'Donnell Award cycle, there will be 2 separate science awards, one for biological science and one for physical science. We're incredibly grateful to the O'Donnell Foundation for their $1.15 million gift that allowed us to expand these awards. Their generous donation will broaden our capacity to recognize Texas exemplary scientists. The Technology Innovation Award was added in 2008 to recognize individuals and research teams from non-academia, such as industry, research organizations, and government, who've made a major innovative technological discovery with the potential, or which has made a positive impact on society. Nominees for technology innovation should come from non-academic organizations, but they may also come from academic organizations. To date, there have been 67 recipients of the O'Donnell Awards, and 15 of these recipients have also been elected since then into the National Academies of Science, Engineering, or Medicine. Recipients of the award each receive a medal that's distinctive to their discipline, as well as a $25,000 honorarium, and are provided with the opportunity to present at TAMEST annual meeting. The awards are presented to the recipients at the O'Donnell Awards dinner on the second night of the TAMEST annual meeting. The 2023 annual meeting will be held in Houston in May. More details will be available as plans move forward. The awards committee is composed of a committee chair and 15 TAMEST members, each serving a 3-year term. There are 5 subcommittees representing the different disciplines. And again, these are medicine, engineering, biological sciences, physical sciences, and technology innovation. Subcommittees select finalists to advance to the external review stage, where the National Academy members who are outside the state of Texas review the final choices of the subcommittees and provide their input and comments. Specific to the Technology Innovation Subcommittee and those awards, site visits are conducted by the subcommittee members to meet with the candidates, peers, and their supervisors. After a thorough review of the candidates, the awards committee recommends the award recipients to be submitted to the Nobel Laureates Committee in the state of Texas. The Nobel Laureates Committee, which is also part of TAMEST, reviews the recommended recipients and submits their endorsement to the TAMEST Board of Directors, who provides a final approval for the candidates. I'd now like to ask Oliver Mullins to discuss what the Technology Innovation Subcommittee is looking for in successful nominations.
And Oliver, you're muted if you can unmute. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. I'm Oliver Mullins. I'm a Schlumberger fellow. I work on the thermodynamics of reservoir fluids. This year, I'm the Technology Innovation Subcommittee Chair for 2023 for the O'Donnell Awards. And I would like to describe what the Technology Innovation Subcommittee is looking for in the applicants. The intent of the Technology Innovation Award is to recognize individuals in applied sciences and engineering from non-academic institutions who have made significant new developments that have the potential for making a positive impact on society. An individual can be nominated for a single technological innovation or for accomplishments that have led to significant new technological innovations. The individual nominated may have functioned as either the driving force or creator of the technological innovation, or they may have led the team which created the technological innovation. We're looking for nominees that have led innovation and implementation in their science or technology, and their product has been developed into a commercial product. It must be demonstrating initial or full commercial success. The scientific advances should be incorporated into a formal undertaking that produces commercial products, engineering methodologies, and/or technical services having significant social benefits. It is important to note that these nominees are different because they are from non-academic institutions or research institutions. Nominees who have had such a major technological innovation while employed in an industry environment, but who may now hold an academic appointment, will not be excluded. These nominees must be within 25 years from their first full-time industry-affiliated position. The 250-word summary is very important. The reason is that there is a diverse group of expertise of members on each subcommittee as well as candidates. It is worth spending time on the summary and being concise and clear when writing them. The committee looks closely at the nominee biographical sketch to better understand their accomplishments. The 3 letters of support are very important as well. We look at who the authors are and their relationship to the candidate. Do the writers know the candidates personally or by reputation? This comes out in the letters, often directly or indirectly. We don't award in specific areas each year. The actual area of work does not change if someone won the award in that particular area in a previous year, as long as they are the most meritorious recipient. The work of the recipients includes the medical field, including wound care and also diagnosis, the oil industry, including environmental concerns and also formation evaluation, semiconductors, both manufacturing and RAM development, automotive development, and also software development. You can see that the Technology Innovation Award is open across a broad array of disciplines. Why not yours? I'll now hand this over to Stephanie Shaw to discuss guidelines and eligibility requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. My name is Stephanie Shaw, and I am the Program Officer here at TAMEST. For the Technology Innovation Awards, nomination guidelines include that the nominator may only choose the technology innovation category for this award. So they cannot be nominated for an engineering and a technology. You would have to just have it be technology innovation. All nominees will be automatically renominated for the following 2 years after the initial nomination, as long as the nominee still meets all eligibility requirements. If a nominator would like to withdraw a nominee or add supplemental information, they can reach out to the TAMEST office and we will add that to their nomination packet. For research teams, they may be nominated. However, there must be an individual of the team that has functioned as the driving force or leader of the group that created the innovation. And nominator requirements, those are TAMEST members, past O'Donnell Award recipients, industry executives, administrators, managers, and supervisors, university presidents, chancellors, provosts, deans, department chairs, and vice presidents for research. Now, moving on to the eligibility requirements. As Oliver mentioned, nominees must be within 25 years from their first time industry affiliated position at the time the awards are given. And nominees must have been continually employed in the state of Texas for the past 2 years at the time that the application is submitted. And TAMEST members are not eligible, and they must have their technology successfully commercialized. For the timeline, so as you can see, we are within the nomination period. The call for nominations opened in February and it closes May 31st. So we still have about 2 months to get nomination packets complete and submitted. In June and August, we will compile the nomination packets and the subcommittees will review and discuss nominations in their category and determine the candidates that will move forward to the next step of review. In August, the full awards committee discusses the candidates that will move forward to the next step of the process. And for technology innovation, that includes an in-person or virtual site visit to the nominees' organization. In September, we've got a busy month in September. The full awards committee will meet to discuss the results of the site visit and make final recommendations for the award finalists. Then the finalists will be submitted to Nobel Laureate Committee for their review and approval. And finally, they will be submitted to the TAMEST Board of Directors for final approval. In October, the award recipients will be notified along with their nominators, and the nominators of candidates who are not selected will also be notified at this time. Then in January, we will announce the award recipients to the public. So this was more of a high-level overview of the guidelines, but if you would like to look at it and get some more information, you can look at the nomination guides, eligibility requirements, application forms, and we have an FAQ page that kind of goes over some of those frequently asked questions. And those will all be available on the TAMEST website at tamest.org/O'Donnell-awards. I will now turn it back over to Terrence Henry to moderate the Q&A for today's session.
Great, thank you, Stephanie, and Oliver and Anne. Wonderful information and glad to share it with everyone today. Now comes the Q&A portion of the session where each of you has a chance to ask questions about the awards. Again, you can type your question in the chat box, or you can just unmute yourself and ask the question verbally. As Stephanie mentioned, while we're waiting for questions to come in, we do have a frequently asked questions guide on our website, and you're encouraged to take a look at that as well.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, this is Terry Elger from Southwest Research Institute. I just like a little more clarification on what successfully commercialized means. Like, does it have to be very profitable? Do we have to be getting paid for it? What exactly does that mean?
Well, I'll go ahead and address that, but it's a little bit unclear, you might say. So what I would say is that there really needs to be evidence, a metric of the success of the product or the idea having a significant impact. Commercialization is one widely used metric for that, but if there's a project that has a significant impact but is not, say, a commercial service, then that can be included. Now, just note that there was a project that won this award from ExxonMobil on oil spill evaluation and treatment. And I'm not sure if that was led to a commercial service that ExxonMobil provided or whether they used it internally, but it had a significant impact on oil spill treatment. So it's a little bit complicated, what I would say, but what I think the most important issue is some metric of significant impact, and then past that, commercialization is a great metric for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. We had traded the license for this thing for support on a grant, so we're not actually getting paid for it. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't a requirement.
Yeah, I think I have addressed that correctly.
Yeah.
Anne or Terrence or Stephanie, do you have any comment?
I agree. And Terry, what you just said would meet the qualifications, assuming that the innovation is going to be available for society's benefit.
Yes. Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great question. And Terrence Alger is a past recipient of the O'Donnell Award, so very happy to have you with us today. All right, we have a question here in the chat. And again, feel free to type in your questions as we move along, or just unmute yourself to ask a question verbally. So the question is from Ji Zhang, and the question is about the support letters. Who should they come from? Can they come from anyone? Any insight into what makes a successful support letter? Let's start with Anne on this one, and then we'll hear from Oliver.
Okay, so it's important, I'm going to say, and Oliver, you correct me if I'm incorrect about this, that at least 2 of those support letters not be from the company or the entity where the person is employed. I'm going to say it's equally important that 1 of those support letters be from within the company so that there's knowledge of mentorship and or inside I'm going to say inside information about the person. But the other 2 should be independent, not require, not their salaries not being involved, for instance, in their recommendation letters. No conflict of interest, in other words.
So I'll comment as well that a successful letter, the author of the letter should be someone of significance. And so that's an important point in these letters, to have that person introduce themselves in a way to show that significance. And they should be very aware and hopefully personally know the candidate. So it's an amalgam of both. You don't want to get a very famous person that doesn't really know the person, but you also don't want to get your spouse that, and then what Anne said is very important, to have letters that acknowledge that this is an important development outside of a vested interest of a company trying to sell a product. So that's a very important component of the letter as well. I think you can have more than 3 if there were more people inside of a company that wanted to comment on the candidate, but you want to have at least 2 from outside the institution.
Great, thank you. So we've addressed the question in the chat. Again, if you have questions you'd like to ask, feel free to type them in the chat. If you'd like to ask a question verbally, you can click the reactions tab at the bottom of your Zoom screen, raise your hand, and then we'll call on you in order to ask your question, and then we'll answer it. So delighted to see this hand raised. Van Truscott is here, and we'll ask you to unmute to ask your question. Dr. Truscott is also a past recipient of the Technology Innovation Award. So excited to have you with us, and go ahead with your question.
Hi, great to be here. Wonderful session so far. So I noticed that one of the requirements is that the nominee has to be living in Texas for 2 years. Now, with regards to the technology that they commercialize, does that technology, its bulk of work needs to reside in Texas, or could be really anywhere? You know, if you could kind of elaborate on that for me.
Great question. Oliver, let's hear from you first, and then Anne, if you have anything to add after Oliver.
Well, I don't think I will get in trouble by saying that it does not have to be commercialized in Texas. In fact, with these global companies the way they are, they may, well, when I was working in Connecticut, my engineering center was in Tokyo. So it's just the way that works. So the innovation has to take place in Texas. The commercialization can happen anywhere. And if you're developing a product that applies outside of North America or outside of Texas, you know, it might be you're worried about cold weather or something, might apply more in the north. But in any event, so the commercialization can be anywhere. I think that's correct.
Can you elaborate on the innovation part? Because you said the innovation needs to be in Texas. So like the bulk of the research needs to occur here at.
Yes, yeah, that's what I would say, that the leadership for the innovation and the innovation itself has to be within the state of Texas. And so that's a very hard requirement, you know, a clear-cut requirement. But how that innovation moves into the marketplace, there's not a constraint on that unless, for example, if you were trying to develop a project and a candidacy built around a commercialization process, then I think that process would have to be in the state of Texas. If the innovation is taking a product to the marketplace, then the development of the product would be done in the state of Texas, but the commercialization would be open. It's open, however that takes place within a multinational. So I mean, as an example of how that goes. So the primary focal point of the candidate and of the innovation has to be in Texas, and then how that is implemented to have impact in a broader society can be anywhere.
Okay,
Thank you, Oliver. Anne, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just give some examples that may be more empowering relative to visualizing what innovation in Texas means. So our candidates must be living in Texas. Their innovation or their creativity is to be from their group, that is themselves and their team that are in the state of Texas. But for instance, one of our prior awardees, the application of this invention was down in the Brazilian rainforest and over in Holland. So what Oliver is saying about international impacts is very true for many of our larger companies. It's not so usually relevant for our smaller companies. But that innovation, the creation of the innovation, we would prefer that it be within the state, but its testing and development can be, in addition to in the state, other places in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have another question, raised hand here from Jeffrey Rabin, and we'll ask you to unmute and verbally ask your question.
Thank you, sir. Jeff Rabin from the University of the Incarnate Word, Rosenberg School of Optometry. I am the Assistant Dean for Research, Graduate Studies, and Assessment. And listening in with me is our new Dean, Dr. Sandra Fortenberry. So I was going to pose the question, sir, if one is a university member, but is strongly affiliated with industry, has a patent and has developed a new medical test that expands the scope of medical care, and perhaps several of such endeavors within the state of Texas, and possibly also in partial collaboration with the military, is that individual considered a competitive candidate? It seems the emphasis is on individuals who are employed in industry as opposed to those in academia who are heavily collaborating with industry.
Great question. Let's begin with Anne, and then we'll hear from Oliver. I think this question has arisen before with nominations, and kind of how do you decide if your nominee should be technology innovation for the private sector or perhaps one of the academic award nominations?
Okay, so this is out of the box of what these awards or how they're structured. But let me ask you, Jeffrey, if I may, a couple of questions. So this specific technology innovation award is for non-academic inventors, creators that have product or have their inventions have typically been commercialized. So my question to you is, because this has been opened, this Technology Innovation Award has been opened up to a small team. I'm understanding that an individual that's at UIW was one of the key inventors, if not the primary inventor, but you're also working with one or more other individuals at different companies. It is possible, and everybody else on this call that's part of technology innovation is open to change what I'm just now saying, is I would think that you could submit as a team of 2 or 3 people with the lead, assuming that the industry, or let me say non-academic lead, was a substantive and equal inventor on this. But that would be as a team between the UIW person as well as the other company and perhaps the military, because the company and the military are both appropriate for technology innovation, but they have to be on equal footing with your person at UIW. Okay, I'm open to throwback.
So I'll comment also. We had a winner of the TI award who is a professor and is a professor at UT Austin, but he had a company that was, and of course you can imagine that the work that he's doing in the university would have an impact on the company that he was involved with, but it was the company's innovation that led to the impact. So I think you have to be very careful how this process works, but I think that there is a viable pathway, as we have had in the past, for people who are employed in universities, but also in companies to be a successful candidate for this award. So it's very much what Anne is saying. You have to balance what are you really trying to recognize in the candidate, and does it fit more within an academic award within the O'Donnell Awards or within the Technology Innovation Award?
Great, thank you. Any follow-ups, Jeffrey, on your question there?
No, that was extremely helpful. For example, over the last 10 years, we've developed a new test of color vision that, unlike the book tests that many are familiar with, identifies readily the type, red, green, or blue, and severity. And a patent was awarded, and the patent is shared by a company that markets the product. And it originated as a collaboration with the US Air Force. So there are several parties involved in that one. And we have similar projects underway that would be commercialized by a company for public use. So I guess we may fit in, but I would discuss that with my dean and others, but I see a possible course.
Well, I'll comment. I've been in research for a long time, but in a company. And in my own portfolio, I had scientific projects that I was pursuing more to elucidate the basic science. And those projects would compete with academics. And then I had also a portfolio while I was employed to have commercial impact. And the science involved in that, in my portfolio, and that part of my portfolio was not nearly as, I'll say, challenging and at the forefront. In fact, to commercialize the science we were doing downhole, it had to be very robust, kind of basic is the way I would put it. And so if I were going to go after an academic style award, it's going to be on the scientific portfolio. If I'm going to go after some sort of impact on commercialization, that's going to be the more basic science and the engineering side. So I think you can figure out what is it that really is the key development that you want to recognize, and then you can figure out where it needs to go.
All right, we've got time for some more questions. If you have any, you can raise your hand or type them in the chat. We'll just give another moment here for any more questions to come in.
I'm going to bring up a question that came up earlier today, and that is the 2 years that a person has to be in the state of Florida to be eligible to receive or to be nominated, but specifically to receive the Technology Innovation O'Donnell Award. And could I ask Stephanie to answer that question, please?
And you said Florida. I think you're wishing you.
Texas.
I think you're wishing you were on the beach.
Should be, right?
Right.
Yes, so for Texas, we have 2 years from when the application is submitted. So we'll have that be May 31st. So anytime before May 31st. But we have a bit of leeway with that. We're kind of rethinking how we're looking at these dates. So if it's a few months after, you could feel free to reach out and ask if that's enough wiggle room for that to work.
Great question. And we will be updating our frequently asked questions guides online based on the questions we received today at this session and the earlier session we had for the academic awards today. So keep an eye out for those. All right. Well, really appreciate all of you joining us today, and want to thank Anne Salamone, Oliver Mullins, and Stephanie Shaw for conducting the session. We hope you found this information helpful. We are going to have the video and slides of today's session posted on our website. All of you will also receive links to those in a follow-up email. You'll also get a survey about this session. We'd love to get your feedback on what could be improved and what you enjoyed about the session for next time. As a reminder, The deadline for applications for the O'Donnell Awards is May 31st, 2022. We'd also like to invite all of you to join us for our TAMEST annual conference, Imperatives for Health. That will take place June 20th to the 22nd in San Antonio, Texas at the Weston Riverwalk. We're going to take a look at what communities need in order to be healthy and successful. We've got a great program lined up. It's open to everyone in the research community, so we hope you can join us. We've got speakers like Nobel laureate James Allison of MD Anderson, the director of the National Science Foundation, Dr. Sitharaman Panchanathan, and Marcia McNutt, president of the National Academy of Sciences. Our 2022 O'Donnell Awards recipients are going to present their research on Tuesday, June 21st on stage at the conference. And the highlight of the event every year is getting to celebrate their awards, which we'll do with a ceremony and dinner the evening of Tuesday, June 21st. So again, all of you are invited to join us. You can find more information on our website, tamest.org. We'll also share some info with you on the conference in that follow-up email tomorrow. So to wrap things up, just as a reminder, the deadline for applications for the awards is May 31st, 2022. If you have any questions or need further information, please feel free to reach out to Stephanie Shaw, our program officer. Once again, thank you for joining us today and really appreciate you making the time to learn more about the awards. That concludes our session, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.